about a year, I drove for Uber at night. Not because I liked it, no one truly likes the overnight shift, but the money was better. The bonuses, surge fares, and the fact that most passengers were quieter. I could throw a single earbud in my left ear with some ambient music and keep my right ear open, just in case anyone wanted to talk. Most nights, I left home around 9 p.m., already knowing my wife would be asleep by the time I got back. We'd agreed on it. It was just temporary until we saved enough to trade in our old car and make a down payment on a house. During those hours, my entire world became my 2015 Toyota Corolla, the lingering scent of pine cleaner in the carpets, and the constant hum of the AC rattling through the dash. On this particular night, it was a Thursday. It was well past 2 a.m. and I was getting ready to wrap up. My eyelids felt heavy. I'd done a few runs to the downtown bars and others out in the suburbs. Nothing unusual. Then I got a ride request. Request, 2:23 a.m. passenger, Marvin pickup, Beasley Street, Industrial Zone. I almost declined. Beasley was one of those areas I avoided. An abandoned part of the city, filled with empty warehouses, wide streets with barely any streetlights, old lampposts flickering, and nothing but shadows. But the fare was triple. 3 times the usual rate. I accepted. As I got closer, my GPS started acting up, rerouting twice. When I finally reached Beasley Street, there were no houses, no businesses, not a soul around. Just concrete shells, a couple of junked cars rusting by the curb, bent iron fences, and a thin mist swirling under flickering yellow lights. There was a metallic smell and the air rust and mold mixed together. I slowed down, peering through the windshield. "Marvin?" I called out quietly, leaning forward over the wheel. My app said the passenger was right there, beside some old paper mill. Then, out of nowhere he appeared. It was as if he'd been there all along. A tall, skinny man, had to be at least 6'4". Dressed all in black, even black gloves. Baseball cap pulled down low, and a surgical mask over his faceway after the pandemic had ended. He walked slowly, no rush, and climbed into the back seat without saying a word. "Hey, Marvin?" I asked. He just nodded, slow, staring straight ahead. As we drove, I started picking up on little details that set me on edge. First, he kept staring into the rearview mirror. Not at me, at himself. Like he was searching his own reflection for something. At one point, he adjusted his cap to cover his eyes even more. Second, he gripped a black backpack tight in his lap. Almost like it was fragile or dangerous, I don't know. The way his arms tensed, it just felt off. The route took us even further out of the city. An almost rural neighborhood, empty lots, tall grass, a handful of dark houses. My gas tank was down to a quarter. I already regretted accepting. I tried making small talk, something I always did when things felt tense. "You live out that way?" Nothing. Night shift? Silence. Suddenly, he spoke up, his voice muffled and flat. "Just need to pick something up. Can you wait 5 minutes?" I checked the app. The drop-off was on a dead end called Hollow Pines. No houses listed, just empty land. 5 minutes? I asked, hesitating. He nodded but still didn't look at me. As we kept driving, my phone rang. It was my wife. She never called this late. "Everything okay?" I answered on speaker, careful to keep my voice low. "You're out later than usual." "I just have a bad feeling tonight. Just one more ride. I'm on my way home." She was quiet for a few seconds. Then she said, "I heard something in the baby's room, like a click. As if someone touched the doorknob." A chill ran down my spine. "Lock the door and arm the alarm. Call me if you need anything. I'll be home as soon as I can." I hung up, glanced in the rear view. He was still staring, only now he was smiling beneath the mask. I couldn't see the smile itself, but I saw it in his eyes, and it was like he understood everything I'd just said. When we got there, the street was pitch black. No streetlights, just my headlights cutting through the tall grass on both sides. There was a dirt path leading to what looked like an old shed. He pointed with one finger. "Stop there." "You sure?" "Wait 5 minutes, no more." He stepped out. Took the backpack with him. I waited in total silence. No music, no crickets, nothing but my own breathing and the slow tick of the hazard lights. 5 minutes passed, then 7, then 10. I locked the doors. And that's when I realized he'd never ended the ride in the app. I reached to check if I was still online, but the app was frozen, screen totally stuck. Tried to restart, nothing, lights. Out in the weeds, flashlights, footsteps, shadows. "Marvin?" I called out, voice shaking. No answer, but then a loud thud behind the car, like a rock smacking the rear window. I looked in the rear view. A shadow, big, moving too fast to be him. I threw the car in reverse, hit something, or someone. The shadow went down. I floored it forward, tires spinning in the wet dirt. I drove for about 2 minutes before hitting a real road. My heart was slamming in my chest, mind racing. That's when I looked at the passenger seat, his backpack. It was just sitting there. I pulled over, hand shaking. Part of me wanted to toss it out the window. Part of me thought I should check for ID, maybe a phone number. I took a breath, unzipped it, slow. Inside, wrapped in cloth, a cassette recorder with a handwritten label. Testimony 4, October 1989. I took the bag to the local police station. It took them a week to get back to me. A detective called to say there were, in fact, real audio tapes of sessions with kidnapping victims from the 80s inside. They believed they were made by a man who pretended to be a driver and abducted passengers, but they'd never found solid proof until now. I asked about Marvin. They said it was a fake name. The phone number on the account was a prepaid that was already deactivated. The paper mill where I picked him up, abandoned since 1997. I never planned on working for Uber Eats, but when my hours got cut at the factory, and my girlfriend Leela found out she was pregnant, I started hustling every way I could. Weeknights were usually slow, just a handful of orders from fast food places. The occasional leave at the door in some sleepy neighborhood. I liked the routine. The hum of my battered Honda Civic, the faded warmth of the dashboard, the city glowing with sodium lights. Deliver, drop, drive. Easy money until it wasn't. It was early March, the kind of Ohio night where the air felt like wet cloth against your skin. Every surface seemed to sweat, and my windows kept fogging up no matter how much I wiped them down. I remember glancing at my phone, seeing it was almost 11:30 p.m. One more delivery, and I'd call it. That's when I got the ping. Order, Uber Eats, customer, Diane, drop off, 1637 Emerson Street. I hesitated. Emerson Street was old money, the kind of place where the houses were set way back from the road, hidden behind ancient oaks and broken stone walls. Most people there probably hadn't ordered takeout in years, but the tip looked huge, $18, almost as much as my whole shift combined. I accepted. As I pulled out of the McDonald's drive-thru, my phone buzzed. It was Mark, my ex-best friend now, in a twist that still made my stomach clench, dating my younger sister. He'd been blowing up my phone for days. I ignored the call, feeling a knot form in my chest. Things between us were ugly, and tonight was supposed to be about work, not old grudges. He called again. I killed the ringer and told myself to focus. Outside, the world was soaked and quiet, the mist making every streetlight look like a pale sun behind frosted glass. It was almost midnight. I told myself, just drop the food, then go home. Don't start anything with Mark. Don't check the text from Lila about the baby's room. Not tonight. Emerson Street always looked haunted to me. The trees leaned in from both sides. their bare branches knitting overhead like black veins against the orange haze of the streetlights. The houses were mansions from another century, grand but decaying, the kind of place you expected to see in an old horror movie. I found 1637, an enormous two-story with paint peeling off its columns, one cracked lantern still burning by the front porch. The driveway was long, lined with dark, tangled bushes. As I drove up, my headlights hit a stone angel half hidden in the ivy, its face weathered and eyes hollowed out. Something about it made my skin crawl. I parked, grabbed the McDonald's bag, and stepped out. Instantly, the damp cold pressed in, heavy and silent. The house seemed to watch me, every window reflecting the glare of my car, showing only darkness inside. I rang the bell and waited. The air smelled of old leaves, something musty and chemical, maybe fertilizer, maybe mold. No one answered. I knocked a little harder, still nothing. I was about to turn and leave the bag on the porch when the door creaked open, just an inch, then another. "Hello?" I called out, peering into the gap. No reply. Normally, I'd just drop the bag, snap a photo for the app, and walk. But the note in the app said, "Please hand directly to Diane." Against my better judgment, I stepped up to the doorway. The hallway was dark, but I could see a faint glow deeper inside, like the blue static of an old TV. "Diane? Uber Eats." I called again. A shuffling sound from the left, then a cough, wet and abrupt. I stepped inside, just past the threshold, and the heavy scent of mildew hit me hard. There was a chemical bite under it, like bleach, and the floor creaked under my shoes. To my right, a staircase curled into darkness. To the left, the faint blue light. My phone buzzed again, a text from Lila, "Can't sleep. Baby's kicking a lot. Think I heard something outside. Come home soon." I typed back with shaking fingers. Finishing up, "Be home in 20. I glanced back at the open front door. It felt weird, leaving it like that. But every horror story starts with someone making a dumb decision, so I pushed the door wider and called out, "Hello?" That's when I noticed the photographs on the wall. Dozens of them, black and white, yellowed around the edges. Some showed kids in old-timey clothes, some were family portraits, but the faces had all been scratched out, each one gouged until only a blank shape remained. A cold sweat broke out along my neck. But I told myself it was probably just some old lady with weird habits. Rich people could be eccentric. I moved further in. The blue glow came from a TV in the living room, set to static. In front of it, a thin old woman sat hunched in a faded armchair, wearing a robe and slippers. Her hair was thin and white, her head tilted forward like she was asleep. "Diane?" I asked. She didn't look up. I stepped closer, holding out the bag. "Uber Eats? McDonald's?" She still didn't move. The TV hissed. There was a thick, coppery smell in the air now, beneath the chemical stench. I cleared my throat. "Ma'am." Her head turned, slow as a puppet on a string. Her face was gaunt, eyes cloudy and strange. She smiled, but her lips barely moved. "You're late," she whispered. "Sorry, traffic was," I started, but she cut me off. "Put it on the table," she said, voice flat and empty. There was a small side table beside her, covered with yellowed newspapers and an old, half-burned candle. I set the bag down. Her eyes flickered to my phone. "Don't take my picture. I'm just marking the delivery, ma'am. App rules." She stared at me, and for a second, I thought she was going to start yelling. But then her gaze drifted to the TV, as if she'd forgotten I was there. I snapped a quick photo of the bag only, not her, and backed away. As I turned to leave, a loud bang came from upstairs. Heavy footsteps moving fast. It sounded like someone running across the floor, too heavy for an old lady. My breath caught. I looked at Diane, but she didn't react. Just sat, staring into the static. "Is someone else here?" I asked, voice cracking a little. She didn't answer. Her eyes seemed glazed, locked on the TV. I was ready to bolt when my phone buzzed again. Mark, calling for the third time in 10 minutes. That's when I heard a voice sharp, low, and unmistakably male yell, "Get out!" I spun around, heart pounding. But I didn't see anyone. I made a beeline for the door, but as I grabbed the knob, it wouldn't budge. Stuck. I pulled harder, feeling my panic rise, but it wouldn't move. Behind me, footsteps pounded on the stairs. The air felt electric, thick with the smell of old smoke and sweat. The lights flickered. "Get out!" The voice thundered again, echoing through the hallway. I spun, half expecting to see someone charging down the stairs. But there was only the empty, curving banister, and Diane, still sitting in the blue glow, her face unreadable. I slammed my shoulder into the door once, twice. Finally it burst open, nearly sending me flying onto the porch. I stumbled down the steps, gasping in the cold air. My phone slipped from my pocket, clattering down the walkway. As I bent to pick it up, I looked back at the house. The porch light flickered. For just a second, I thought I saw a figure, tall, thin, looming behind Diane's chair, one hand resting on her shoulder. I ran to my car, locked the doors, and tried to steady my breathing. My hands shook so badly I could barely tap the complete delivery button. The tip had vanished. No, $18, just the base pay. For a moment, I wondered if I'd imagined it all. Maybe Diane was just senile. Maybe the voice had been the TV. I wanted to believe it. But when I looked at the photo I'd snapped, my blood ran cold. In the reflection of the TV, just behind the blue static, was the outline of a man's face. Eyes wide, mouth open in a scream. I never took another delivery on Emerson Street, but that house never really left me. On those humid nights when the city feels stifling and empty, I can still smell that heavy, moldy odor mixed with something metallic, like it seeped into my clothes, the car seats, even my own skin. For weeks, I dreamed about that living room, the blue glow of the TV, Diane frozen in her chair, and that shadowy figure behind her, always closer than I remembered. Sometimes, I'd wake up certain that someone was sitting in the dark corner of my bedroom, just watching me breathe, the way Diane watched the static. I tried searching for information about the house, about Diane, but every answer led to a dead end. All I found was that, in recent years, neighbors reported lights flickering at odd hours, shapes moving behind windows, low voices at night, yet, officially, no one lived there. People whispered legends, saying the house calls visitors inside, that its door only opens for those with something broken inside them, drawn by what they can't let go of from the past. I started avoiding even driving near Emerson. But still, the app kept trying to send me there. Every so often, an order would flash across my screen, Diane -1637 Emerson Street. I'd cancel, hands shaking, but that address stayed lodged in my mind, like the flicker of a dead TV screen. The worst part is, after that night, I began noticing strange details elsewhere, old photographs with faces scratched out, static on my own bedroom TV, a feeling of being watched even when I was alone. Lila said I started acting restless, avoiding mirrors, jumping at every sound in the house. Some nights I'd catch myself staring into my own reflection, wondering if what I brought back from Emerson Street was stuck to my skin, or if it had always been there, just waiting for a reason to surface. And ever since then, when sleep won't come, I can't help but hear that deep voice echoing from the dark hallway in my mind. Get out. But what if really it was saying, you'll never leave? I can't really explain why, but I always felt oddly comfortable driving at night. There's something about that endless stretch of wet asphalt, headlights slicing through the dark, that made me forget about the rest of the world. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was escape. That night, everything seemed sharper. The rain hammered the windshield, the scent of damp earth leaking through the car doors, and it felt like the whole town had vanished, just me and my own breathing inside the car. I was just drifting, fingers tapping on the steering wheel, watching the fog dance under the streetlights. Then the app sent me out to a part of town I'd never been, Old Fennel Creek, way out past the edge, near the old railroad lines. Everyone local knew the name, and no one liked talking about it. Bad things happened out there. But the fare was high, and my curiosity got the better of me. I clicked accept before I could really think about it, ignoring the uneasy twist in my gut. The pickup was a dead-end street next to an abandoned warehouse. The pavement was cracked, full of potholes, and an old car sat under a broken streetlight, barely visible through the rain. I pulled up and tapped the app to let them know I'd arrived. Seconds later, a message popped up. On my way out. Thanks for accepting. Before the passenger even appeared, something felt off. As I waited, I noticed a black dog out by the edge of the lot, standing perfectly still, staring at me. My headlights caught its eyes, but it didn't even blink. Just then, I heard glass shatter somewhere down the street. A shadow darted behind my car, too quick to catch. Goosebumps crawled up my arms. The whole street felt wrong, like I'd crossed into someone or something else's territory. In my rear view, I finally saw a man hustling toward me. Dark jacket, red backpack, patchy beard, eyes that seemed too bright for this much rain. He slid into the back seat and flashed a big, easy grin. Hey there. Thanks for braving this storm, man. Thought nobody would come all the way out here. At first, he seemed genuinely friendly. Chatty, upbeat, cracking jokes about the weather, even made a comment about the dog. That stray? Swear he shows up every time I call a ride out here. He introduced himself. Name's Matt. I promise I'm harmless. As I pulled away, Matt noticed an old paperback on the passenger seat. He picked it up, thumbing through the pages. Wow, you read some heavy stuff, huh? Criminal psychology. That's a wild choice for downtime. I gave an awkward chuckle and explained I'd studied psych for a bit, before life took a turn and I ended up driving. His interest was intense. You think anybody could become a killer if the circumstances were right? I wonder about that every night. He laughed, but his eyes stayed a little too sharp. Then he asked what scared me most about the human mind. Before I could answer, he pressed on. Ever meet somebody who seemed totally normal, until you realized it was all just a mask? I felt the tension start to build right there in the car. For the first 15 minutes, Matt wouldn't stop talking movies, unsolved cases, even stories of missing people from the area. He peppered me with personal questions. Did I live alone? Got any family? How long I'd been driving this late? As we left the last bit of city lights behind, his tone shifted. The smile faded. His jokes turned into offhanded, darker comments. Crazy, isn't it? Never really know who's in the back seat. Kinda makes you wonder what people trust, just 'cause an app says it's safe. He stared right at me in the mirror, eyes locked. The radio was off. All I could hear was the relentless drumming of rain and my own pulse in my ears. Sometimes I think about how many secrets fit inside a car like this. All those people, coming and going, what do you think they left behind? My mouth went dry. I could feel sweat under my jacket, even with the AC blowing cold. When we finally turned off onto a side road, he picked an old gravel path under a rusted railway bridge. Matt's whole vibe changed again. He asked me to stop in the dark, where the streetlights didn't reach. Before he got out, he pulled a wrinkled envelope from his backpack and dropped it in my lap. Just open this after I leave, okay? For me? My hands were shaking, but I nodded. He stood outside in the rain, just watching my window until I finally tore open the envelope. Inside was a photo of my youngest daughter standing outside her school, a shot I'd never seen before. On the back, in cramped handwriting, people notice the details others ignore. Never trust routine. I looked up, but Matt was already walking away, slow and calm, into the dark trees beyond the bridge. My blood ran cold. How did he know about my daughter? Why did he have that photo? The terror wasn't just what he'd done, but what he implied. that he could be anywhere, anytime, hiding behind a friendly face. Just then, I spotted the black dog again, closer now, watching from the edge of the lot. And behind him, for a split second, another shadow, taller still. After that night, I never drove again. I couldn't even sit in my own car. Diagnosed with panic disorder, I started avoiding the outside world, locking doors, covering mirrors, shutting out everyone but my family. I slept on the couch with the lights on for months, feeling that stare, like somebody was seeing everything through my eyes. Sometimes I'd bolt awake in the dead of night, heart racing, rain pounding against the window, convinced there were voices right outside. I'd hear snatches of conversation from the backseat of some nightmare, strange questions, chillingly familiar. You think anybody could become a killer if the circumstances were right? The answer haunts me, night after night. And I know, deep down, I'll never really feel safe again. If tonight's story sent a chill down your spine, hit the like button and share this video with someone who loves a good scare. Have your own late-night horror story? Drop it in the comments, I read them all, and you might hear yours featured next. And if you don't want to miss the next nightmare, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. After all, in the darkness, we're never really alone.